The room was silent, but not the kind of silence that waits politely. It waited like a fuse, ticking down to an explosion. Cameras rolled, lights burned bright, but all that shimmered couldn't hide the tension. Tamar Braxton leaned forward, voice shaking, eyes blazing, hands clenched like she was holding back a storm. Then she dropped it. "Y'all sent me a cease and desist and tried to destroy my business." The words hit harder than anyone expected. One sister shifted uneasily. Another tried to deflect. But Tamar didn't blink, because this wasn't just about a piece of paper. This was about betrayal, about family lines drawn in ink over blood. Her voice cracked not with uncertainty, but with the weight of everything she had carried silently for years. She had receipts, evidence, and emotional scars, and she was ready to lay it all on the table. The air turned cold. Nobody dared deny it. And when she said Tony Braxton never had her back, the room froze. Threats, evasions, and tense glances followed. This wasn't a reunion. It was a reckoning. And Tamar made it clear she wasn't asking for understanding. She was exposing truth. The question now wasn't just who sent the letter, it was what they were trying to hide. The tension in the room was almost tangible as Tamar Braxton continued, her eyes locking on each sister one by one, daring them to look away, daring them to deny what she had just said, daring them to meet the weight of her words. "Y'all sent me a cease and desist and tried to destroy my business." The line had landed, and now the room shifted under the weight of that accusation. One sister tightened her jaw, another crossed her arms. But Tamar didn't flinch, didn't falter, because in that moment, she wasn't just recounting a legal action. She was exposing a betrayal that ran deeper than contracts, deeper than lawyers, deeper than any superficial claim of misunderstanding. She explained calmly, almost clinically, how the letter arrived at her home, how her address was handed over without consent, how silence replaced even a single word of support, how nobody stepped in to protect her, not even the one she thought she could trust the most, Tony Braxton. The air thickened as she laid out the consequences, the real-world implications of shutting down her business, blocking opportunities, isolating her from her family, and using silence as a weapon. Every word she spoke was deliberate, every pause calculated, every glance a measure of how long she had been carrying this weight alone. The sisters' reactions were telling, their inability to deny or discredit the claims louder than any argument could be. Their defensive postures, the quick deflections, the vague threats, all exposing the fractures Tamar had been pointing out for years. When she called out Tony specifically, stating that she never had her back, it wasn't spite, it was revelation. A truth that had been simmering and festering beneath the surface, and the room couldn't ignore it. Tamar detailed the impact of the cease and desist on her livelihood as a promoter, singer, and brand, explaining that this wasn't just a legal letter, it was a weapon, a tactical move meant to silence her, to control her, to prevent her from speaking truths that apparently someone in that room didn't want revealed. The subtle shifts in body language, the tight shoulders, the avoidance of eye contact, the sharp intake of breath, all painted a picture of guilt and fear. And Tamar didn't miss a single detail. Social media would later pick up every micro-expression, every blink, every hesitation. But in that moment, it was just her voice, the evidence of her pain, and the undeniable truth that she had been left to face this alone. She pushed further, explaining that no one stepped forward. No one defended her, and that the silence was deliberate. A coordinated absence of intervention. A void that made the betrayal heavier, more personal. And through it all, Tamar remained composed. Calm, almost eerily so. Because the power wasn't in shouting, it was in revealing. In exposing a fracture in the family that no one wanted aired. A fracture that had always been there, just waiting for the right moment to surface, and that moment was now. And Tamar Braxton was making sure it landed for everyone to see, even after the room fell silent. The echoes of Tamar's words hung heavy, refusing to dissipate. She leaned in, her gaze sharper, her tone steady but cutting, explaining that the cease and desist was never just a piece of paper. It was a weapon aimed at her career, her business, her very visibility, and worse, It was a signal that someone close had decided she needed to be silenced. The sisters shifted, tried to redirect, muttered defensively, but Tamar didn't let the ropes slip. She called out the small evasions, the soft threats, the silent refusals to answer, making it clear that inaction was as telling as action. Toni Braxton's name came up again, not whispered, not hesitant, but direct, like a bolt piercing through the tension. Tamar explained that Toni's lack of defense was betrayal, proof that even the untouchable in the family could watch without intervening while her livelihood was threatened. She recounted how her personal address had been handed to the attorney, the legal attack carried out without a single call or conversation, the professional implications of shutting down her business at the precise moment she was working to expand it. Every gesture, every glance from the sisters was now evidence, and Tamar didn't miss a beat. The room wasn't just uncomfortable. It was fractured, tense, loaded with the weight of secrets that no one wanted aired. Tamar's calm explanation contrasted sharply with the subtle panic around her, turning the legal letter into ash, a symbol of deeper betrayal and a warning that the silence surrounding it spoke louder than words ever could. She had exposed a truth, and the fractures were undeniable. By the time Tamar spoke her final words, the room was heavy with unspoken truths. The silence from her sisters wasn't just avoidance. It was acknowledgement, a subtle admission that what she said cut too close to home. She didn't yell, she didn't beg, she didn't cry. She simply laid it out, measured and deliberate, exposing the fracture between them and the betrayal that had lingered for years. Every deflection, every half-hearted denial, every sharp glance only confirmed the weight of her claims. The cease and desist was more than a legal tactic. It was a signal, a move meant to isolate her, shut down her business, and perhaps protect secrets that no one wanted revealed. And Toni Braxton's name dropped like a lightning strike, reminded everyone of what was truly at stake: loyalty or the lack of it. Tamar's calm, unwavering presence contrasted with the tension around the table, turning every word into evidence, every pause into meaning. The audience watching on social media could feel the pressure, could see the subtle signs of guilt, fear, and avoidance. Tamar wasn't just recounting events. She was exposing patterns, revealing the silence as complicity, and holding her family accountable in a way no one dared to respond to. The message was clear. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about truth, visibility, and finally taking a stand. If this breakdown opened your eyes and showed you the truth behind Tamar Braxton's claims, don't stay silent. Join the conversation. Hit that like button so more people can see the drama unfold. And make sure you subscribe to the Hype Spill, because this story isn't over, not even close. Drop your theories in the comments. Who do you think really sent this cease and desist? Was it just business or something far more personal? We're watching every move, every reaction, and every secret that might come out next, and you won't want to miss a single update. Stay tuned, because in families like this, once one truth is revealed, others always follow. And we'll be here to break it all down for you.